guys, it's Clara. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to do just a super quick garden update. We are in the mid to end of August now, so the garden is undergoing some major changes, largely because, you know, we're getting to the end of the growing season for some of the summer stuff. So the tomatoes are pretty much done. I have a couple more on there that I could just plunk off. This morning I had just taken a few things, a few of the tomatoes, and then there were some green beans that had grown while I was in Chicago. But the peppers are still growing, so we're having some new buds here. I am really glad. Ooh, there's a spider right there. You see that? Yeah, I don't know what kind of spider that is, but I usually like spiders actually because they will eat the smaller bugs that can harm your plant. But anyway, so back to the peppers. So I have a few peppers growing in there. I don't know if you could see right there, right here. And then on this plant, I mean, they are getting really big and they still got flowers. And so hopefully we have enough time in the season for them to still grow and get a lot of sun. I have been removing caterpillars from the kale. The white moth is back. That's the one that tends to attack the cabbages, and they did for mine last time. So yeah, I've been removing them. This is what damage looks like. If you go away for a while and they start to get your plants, this is what can happen. They can start to look pretty eaten up. And oop, it's starting to rain, so I'm gonna have to make this quick. Some newer stuff. Oh, there's the white moth. See him? Some newer stuff. These were a nice surprise. As I said, this is a new garden for us and a new home. So we find little surprises here and there. So I don't know what these are, but they are very pretty and they're very fragrant for being such a little flower. So those are really pretty. And I don't know what this is either. So these bushes here are producing these flowers. So yeah, I don't know what those are. And now it's really starting to rain. So I'm going to make this super quick. So beans are still producing a little bit. There's still flowers in there. The kale, I have carrots here. And I uprooted some of the other old plants. So I have labeled these. There's some spinach that's growing in here. These are green peas just to try. I don't know if they can grow this late in the season. One of the seeds obviously didn't grow. This one is peas again. This one is spinach, and this one is in a pod, so I just wanted to try those out. That one down there I think is mesclun greens. And I did end up pulling out all the radishes. They were awesome, so I'm going to try again to grow more radishes in this one. And then over here, I still haven't pulled up that garlic. It really needs to come out. It's probably rotted because I'm being lazy. But yeah, this cucumber, I actually plucked off that cucumber and it's going great. But over the weekend, unfortunately, this is starting to get some mildew attacks. So I am going to be spraying this with some neem oil, which had been working for a while. But again, this is what happens sometimes when you have to leave to go out of town. And then look at these little guys. There's some little cucumbers growing, and hopefully these flowers were fertilized so that, you know, these will grow. But usually that neem oil spray tends to work pretty well. One nice thing too is you can kind of train cucumber plants to grow a certain way. Sometimes you'll come out and they'll have wrapped their tendrils around a certain area. You can always very delicately unwrap it. This was actually just over here, but it was growing too close to this other cucumber plant, so I just unwrapped the tendril and moved it right over here. Look at this rain, you guys. Hopefully I can still film. And yep, I'm growing some carrots down there. When I thinned out those carrots, I still was not as aggressive as I probably should have been, but so they might end up being small. And then I just was going to try a little bit of spinach here, and this is where I had kale before. And then this is where I'm growing garlic. I had bought some garlic from the grocery and I split up the bulb and I chose the big pieces, you know, the really oblong moon crescent shaped pieces. and then you plant them. And you plant them kind of upside down so the pointier end is sticking up so that the sprout will come up towards the sky as it should and doesn't, you know, get suffocated underneath. So these are growing really well. I'm kind of experimenting a little bit. The ones with 2 sticks, I just marked them with toothpicks, are the ones that tended to be a lot bigger. And then this bulb was just a really, really small one. It's still growing, so seems to be doing okay. So yes, and I totally messed up with this cilantro. I just was way too lazy. Now it's starting to go to seed, so I'm just going to let it go to seed so that maybe I can plant it again. But what will happen to cilantro is if it gets too hot, it gets dried out, you don't plant it as you should, it'll get dry, it'll stop producing the leaves that you like to use, you know, like in things like salsa, guacamole, pico de gallo, you know, stuff like that. And it'll shoot up in the center these kinds of leaves. And what will happen is it'll produce really, really tall stalks of flowers that kind of are like this, like a star. And you let those grow, and you can cut them off at the end of the season as fall ends or the middle of fall, and let them dry out, and those become coriander seeds. And you can either use those in your cooking, or you can plant those and those become other cilantro plants. So I've had luck with that before. So even though I kind of was lazy with this one and the cilantro went bad before, I only used it actually only once, I can at least grow it again and either use the seeds that come from this or plant more cilantro. An update on the zucchini. So as you know, the zucchini was done. You know, I had not been very proactive in using any pesticides or anything, but look at this plant. It's huge. This little one has fallen over. I sprinkled 7 dust from the advice of Gary Pilarchik, who's a fantastic gardener. He has a channel called The Rusted Garden. He's been doing this a long time, so check him out. He is fantastic. If you take his advice, which, you know, I've been doing a little bit of experimentation myself, so hey, get out of there. The thing you have to be careful though is with dogs, you know, you don't want them near the pesticides. So you'll see that white powder there, that's the pesticides. Sorry that this is so shaky, but look at this plant, it's huge. And I know that the caterpillars had gotten to this plant, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm just kind of gonna leave it alone. You know, I'm still gonna spray it and put the 7 dust once a week, being careful of course to avoid the flowers. But I don't know what's gonna happen, if it's gonna produce anything. I'm not expecting anything out of this plant. This plant is more for experimentation, just to see, you know. But I mean, suddenly it is very healthy. Suddenly the mildew has gone away. This I do not believe is mildew. I think this is part of the pattern. It's very different from mildew I had shown in the other video. So something is happening inside. Either the 7 dust is killing the caterpillars, maybe I got to it in time, or perhaps the zucchini is finding other ways to survive the caterpillars. I really don't know. I'm just counting my days here, because I really did see you know, that the plant had fallen over. And you can even see here, I mean, right in here is where it had looked like it was a disaster and was dying. So yeah, I don't know what will happen. I decided to pick the peppers after all, just because there's so many flowers on those plants that in order for the plant to really divert energy towards maturing those flowers and producing fruit, I think I had to take that energy away from these peppers. So these will be in our meals for the next week. The herb garden is doing just fine. Just a note with herbs, this basil has really taken off. I'm so happy. When you do start to see these little things, this is going to develop into flowers, and what can happen is the basil might stop producing.
So you might just want to clip that off. And it might, even at this point, start to taste a little bit different. To me, I like sweet basil no matter what, so I would still eat it after it floured. Just a little note there. And then over here, you can see that the oregano is flowering. See this? So this plant might start to die off. So I'm just gonna pick the flowers off. And certainly you could leave it on here and let the flowers mature into seeds. You can give them to other people, pass them on, but I don't want that. I want this plant to come back next year just like it came this season without me doing anything. So yeah, this here is all edible. So I'm probably going to be putting this in some pasta dishes this week. And then the chives are doing okay. I'm going to need to be better about watering them because they're starting to look a little sad. And the sage is doing just fine. So that is it for this garden update. If you have started your fall garden or have had experience with some really good vegetables, some leafy greens in the fall/early winter, please do let me know. I'd love to see what survives the best. I'm going to be uprooting these tomatoes today, and I think I'm going to be putting some Swiss chard in there, maybe more of kale or some lettuce. And since the last garden update ended on not such a good note, I did want to end this one on a happier kind of thing. Look what I found. A little cucumber. And if you don't know, cucumbers, they are initially very spiky. I don't know if you could see those little spikes there. You know, so they can like be a little pokey when you first pick them. That's what I love about gardening. Sometimes you can have these little surprises that you wouldn't ordinarily expect to see. So it's a good day.